I'm lost, the widow whispered. Millionaire Cowboy replied, then follow me home. The wind moved fast across the wide Texas land, carrying dust and the smell of coming rain. The sky was turning dark, and the sun was slowly disappearing behind heavy clouds. It was the kind of evening that made even strong men hurry home. Caleb Rourke rode his horse steadily along the empty trail. He was a tall man, quiet and serious, known across the land as a wealthy rancher. People respected him, but they also kept their distance. He did not talk much, and he did not trust easily. His ranch was one of the largest in the area, but his life was simple: work, land, and silence. That was all he needed. Or at least, that's what he believed. As he rode closer to home, the wind grew stronger. Dust hit his face, and his horse became uneasy. Caleb pulled the reins slightly, calming the animal. Then he saw something. Far ahead, near the edge of the trail, there was a figure. At first, he thought it was just a shadow or a broken tree, but as he got closer, he realized it was a person, a woman. She stood alone, not moving as the wind pushed against her. Her dress was dirty and torn at the edges. A thin veil covered part of her face, but it could not hide how tired she looked. Caleb slowed his horse. A woman, alone, out here. It didn't make sense. Trouble often came in quiet forms, and Caleb had learned long ago to be careful. He stopped a few steps away from her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The wind howled between them, loud and restless. The woman lifted her head slightly. Her eyes met his. There was something in them. Fear, yes, but also strength. The kind of strength that comes from surviving too much. Her lips moved, but her voice was soft, almost lost in the wind. I'm lost, she whispered. Caleb studied her carefully. He had seen many people in his life: workers, travelers, liars, and fighters. But this woman didn't look like any of them. She looked like someone who had nowhere left to go. The storm above them grew louder. Thunder rolled in the distance. He could leave. It would be easier, safer. But something held him there. Maybe it was the way she stood, even when she looked weak. Or maybe it was the quiet fear in her voice. Caleb made his choice. Then follow me home, he said, his voice calm and firm. The woman hesitated for a second, as if she didn't fully trust him. But she had no other choice. Slowly, she nodded. Caleb turned his horse and began riding again, this time slower so she could walk beside him. The wind became wild. The first drops of rain started to fall, cold and sharp. Within minutes, the storm was fully alive. Rain poured heavily, soaking the ground. The sky flashed with lightning, and thunder cracked loudly overhead. The woman struggled to keep up. Her steps were weak, and more than once she almost fell. Caleb noticed. Without saying much, he stopped his horse and got down. He helped her climb up behind him. She was light, too light, as if she hadn't eaten properly in days. They rode together through the storm. Neither of them spoke. The only sounds were the rain, the wind, and the steady movement of the horse. After what felt like a long time, the lights of the ranch finally appeared in the distance. Warm light shone from the windows of the large house, standing strong against the storm. They reached the ranch just as the rain became even heavier. A ranch worker ran forward to take the horse, surprised to see Caleb with a stranger. Caleb didn't explain. Get dry clothes ready, he said simply. And some food. The worker nodded quickly and hurried inside. Caleb helped the woman down. She looked even more tired now, her face pale, her hands cold. Inside the house, the fire was already burning. The warmth filled the room, pushing away the cold from outside. For a moment, the woman just stood there, as if she couldn't believe she was safe. Caleb watched her quietly. You can stay here tonight, he said. We'll talk tomorrow. The woman looked at him again. This time her eyes were softer. Thank you, she said, her voice still weak but clear. Caleb gave a small nod. He didn't ask her name. He didn't ask where she came from. Not yet. Because deep down, he knew one thing. This woman was not just lost. She was running from something. And whatever it wasn't far behind. Morning came slowly to the ranch. The storm had passed, leaving the land fresh and clean. The sky was clear again, and the sun rose gently over the wide fields. Birds began to sing, and the workers returned to their daily tasks. Inside the big ranch house, everything was calm. Eliza woke up in a soft bed, wrapped in warm blankets. For a moment, she looked confused, as if she had forgotten where she was. Then the memories of the storm came back, the wind, the rain, and the quiet cowboy who brought her here. She sat up slowly. The room was simple but clean. A wooden chair stood near the window, and a small table held a glass of water. Sunlight came through the curtains, making the room feel safe. Safe. It was a feeling she had not known for a long time. There was a soft knock on the door. "Eliza?" A voice called from outside. It was Caleb. She hesitated for a second, then answered, "Yes." He opened the door slowly, not stepping in right away. "There's food in the kitchen," he said. "You should eat." She nodded. "Thank you." Caleb looked at her for a moment, as if he wanted to ask something, but he didn't. Instead, he simply said, "Take your time," and walked away. Eliza watched him leave. He was a strange man, quiet, careful, and hard to read, but there was something honest about him, something that made her feel less afraid. In the kitchen, a warm meal was waiting, fresh bread, eggs, and tea. Eliza sat down and ate slowly. Every bite reminded her how hungry she had been. A ranch worker smiled at her kindly, but did not ask questions. That made her feel more comfortable. Outside, the ranch was full of life. Horses moved across the fields, and workers spoke as they fixed fences and checked supplies. Eliza stood near the window, watching everything. This place was peaceful, too peaceful. Her hands tightened slightly. Peace never lasted long. Later that day, Caleb was working near the barn when Eliza walked toward him. She had changed into clean clothes, but her face still carried a quiet sadness. Caleb noticed her but didn't stop working. "You're feeling better?" he asked. "Yes," she said softly. There was a short silence. "I should thank you again," she added. "You helped me when you didn't have to." Caleb shrugged lightly. "You needed help." "That's not always enough for people to care," she replied. He didn't answer. Instead, he turned to face her fully. "You can stay here for a few days, until you figure things out." Eliza looked down for a moment. "I don't know what I'm supposed to figure out." That answer caught Caleb's attention. "You don't have a place to go?" he asked. She shook her head slowly. "And your family?" She hesitated. "They're gone," she said quietly. Caleb didn't ask more. He could see it in her eyes. There was pain there, and not the kind that could be explained easily. "All right," he said. "Then stay until you're ready." Eliza looked up at him. "Why?" she asked. "Why are you helping me?" Caleb paused. It was a simple question, but he didn't have a simple answer. "I don't know," he said honestly. "Maybe because no one else was there." Eliza gave a small, tired smile. Days passed. Eliza began to move around the ranch more freely. She helped in small ways, cleaning, organizing, even feeding the chickens. The workers started to accept her presence, though they were still curious. Caleb remained the same, quiet, focused on work, keeping his distance. But he noticed things. He noticed how Eliza always looked at the horizon, like she was waiting for something. He noticed how she avoided certain questions, and at night, when the ranch was silent, he sometimes saw a light in her room. She didn't sleep easily. One evening, as the sun began to set, Eliza stood outside, watching the open land. The sky turned orange and gold, stretching endlessly before her. Caleb walked up beside her. "You like it here?" he asked. She nodded. "It's beautiful." "It's quiet," he added. "Yes," she said. Then after a pause, "But quiet can be dangerous too." Caleb looked at her. "What do you mean?" Eliza didn't answer right away. Instead, she said softly, "Sometimes when things are too quiet, it means something is coming." At that moment, a ranch worker called out from a distance. "Caleb!" They both turned. "There's a rider coming," the worker said, "from the North Trail." Caleb's expression changed slightly. He looked toward the horizon. Far away, a small figure on horseback was moving closer. Eliza's face lost its color. Her hands trembled just a little. Caleb noticed. "Do you know him?" he asked. Eliza didn't speak, but her silence said everything. The past she had been running from had finally found her. The rider did not stop. He came closer, slowly, but with purpose. Dust followed behind his horse, rising into the warm evening air. The ranch workers stopped what they were doing and watched in silence. Caleb stood still, his eyes fixed on the man. Beside him, Eliza felt her chest tighten. Her hands grew cold again, just like the night of the storm. "It's him," she whispered. Caleb glanced at her. "Who is he?" Eliza swallowed hard. "Not alone," she said. "There will be others." As if her words called them, 2 more riders appeared behind the first. They rode together now straight toward the ranch gate. The air changed. It was no longer peaceful. It felt heavy, like something bad was about to happen. The three men stopped at the gate. They looked like travelers, dressed in long coats, their faces calm but serious. But their eyes were sharp, always moving, always watching. Caleb walked forward, stopping a few steps away from them. "This is private land," he said in a steady voice. "State your business." The man in front smiled slightly. "We're just looking for someone," he said. "A woman." Caleb didn't react. "Plenty of women in this world," he replied. "You'll need to be more clear." The man's smile grew thin. "She's traveling alone, looks tired, calls herself Eliza." Behind Caleb, Eliza took a step back. Her breathing became uneven. Caleb noticed, but he didn't turn around. "I haven't seen anyone like that," Caleb said calmly. The second man leaned forward on his horse. "You sure about that?" Caleb's voice did not change. "I don't lie on my land." There was a long silence. The wind moved slowly between them. The first man looked around the ranch, the house, the workers, the land. Then his eyes returned to Caleb. "We don't want trouble," he said. "We just want what belongs to us." Caleb crossed his arms slightly. "Then you're looking in the wrong place." Inside the house, Eliza stood near the window, watching everything. Her heart was racing. She knew these men. Not their names, but their kind. Cold, patient, dangerous in quiet ways. They would not leave easily, and they would not forget. Back at the gate, the tension grew. The third man finally spoke, his voice low. "She has something," he said. "Something important." Caleb looked at him. "And you think she's here?" The man smiled slightly. "We think she's closer than you believe." Caleb stepped forward now, his presence strong. "You've said enough," he said. "Turn around and leave." The first man's smile disappeared. For a moment, it felt like something worse could happen. But then, he lifted his hand slightly, signaling the others. "All right," he said. "We'll go." The riders slowly turned their horses. But before leaving, the first man looked back at Caleb. "If she's here," he said quietly, "you're protecting more than you understand." Then they rode away. The ranch was silent again, but it was not the same silence as before. This one carried fear. That night, the sky was dark and still. Inside the house, Eliza sat by the fire, her hands shaking slightly. Caleb stood near the door, watching her. "They'll come back," she said softly. Caleb nodded. "I know." There was a pause. "You should send me away," she added. "This is not your problem." Caleb looked at her. "It is now," he said. Eliza shook her head. "You don't understand. These men, they don't stop, they don't forgive." "Good," Caleb replied calmly. "Neither do I." That surprised her. She looked up at him, really looked this time. "You're risking everything," she said. Caleb didn't answer right away. Then he said, "This land, this ranch, I built it from nothing. I've faced worse than 3 men on horses." Eliza's voice grew softer. "It's not just them." Caleb stepped closer. "Then tell me," he said. "What are they really after?" Eliza closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, there were tears, but also strength. "My husband," she said. "Before he died, he was involved with people like them." Caleb listened carefully. "I didn't know at first," she continued. "But after he was gone, I found something. Papers, information. I don't even fully understand it." "And they think you still have it?" Caleb asked. She nodded. "I don't," she said. "But they won't believe that." Caleb thought for a moment. Then he said, "Then we make them believe something else." Eliza looked confused. "What do you mean?" Caleb's eyes were steady. "We don't run," he said. "We stand." Outside, in the far distance, 3 riders stopped on a hill. They looked back at the ranch. The first man spoke quietly. "He's not afraid." The second man replied, "Then we'll give him a reason to be." They turned their horses again. This time, they were not leaving. They were preparing. Back at the ranch, Caleb stood near the window, looking out into the dark land. Eliza stood behind him, no longer hiding. For the first time, she wasn't running. But danger was coming. And this time, it would not stop at the gate. The night felt longer than usual. The ranch was quiet, but no one truly slept. The workers stayed alert, keeping watch in turns. Caleb had given clear instructions. No one was to be careless. Inside the house, Eliza sat near the window again. But this time, she was not hiding. She was waiting. Caleb stood outside on the porch, looking into the dark land. His face was calm, but his mind was sharp. He knew the men would return, and they did. Just before sunrise, 3 shadows appeared again on the horizon. The same riders, but this time, they did not stop at the gate. They came closer. Caleb stepped forward, meeting them halfway. Behind him, a few trusted ranch hands stood quietly. They did not carry fear in their eyes, only loyalty. The first man got off his horse slowly. "I told you we would come back," he said. Caleb nodded once. "I expected that." The man looked around. "Still protecting her?" "Yes," Caleb replied. There was no anger in his voice, just truth. The man sighed slightly. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." Caleb didn't move. "Then leave." The second man stepped forward. "We don't want trouble. We want what she has." Caleb's eyes stayed steady. "She has nothing." "That's not what we believe," the first man said. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, a voice came from behind Caleb. "They're telling the truth." Everyone turned. Eliza was walking toward them. Her steps were slow, but strong. Her face was calm, no longer afraid. Caleb frowned slightly. "You should be inside," she shook her head. "No, this ends now." Eliza stepped beside Caleb. The 3 men watched her carefully. "You've been chasing the wrong thing," she said. "I don't have what you want." The first man smiled faintly. "Then where is it?" Eliza took a breath. "Gone," she said. "Destroyed." The men exchanged quick looks. "You expect us to believe that?" the second man asked. Eliza nodded. "Yes, because it's the truth." There was silence again. The wind moved softly across the land. Then the first man stepped closer. "You had a chance to give it to us peacefully," he said. "Now you're making a mistake." Before the moment could grow worse, Caleb spoke. "She said it's gone," he said firmly. "That's the end of it." The man looked at Caleb, studying him. Then he looked at the ranch behind him, the workers, the land. He understood something. This would not be easy, and maybe not worth it. The first man took a slow step back. After a long pause, he nodded slightly. "Maybe you're telling the truth," he said to Eliza. "Or maybe you're not." His eyes moved to Caleb. "But this place," he added, "it's not as quiet as it looks anymore." Caleb didn't respond. The man turned toward his horse. "Let's go," he said to the others. This time, they left without looking back. The ranch slowly returned to silence. But this silence was different. It felt lighter, safer. Eliza stood still, watching the riders disappear into the distance. Her shoulders relaxed for the first time in days. "It's over," she said softly. Caleb looked at her. "You sure?" She nodded. "Yes, they won't come back." He studied her for a moment. Then he believed her. Days passed again. But now, everything felt different. The fear was gone. The tension had faded. Life returned to normal, but better than before. Eliza no longer stayed inside. She walked freely across the ranch, helping where she could. She smiled more, she spoke more. And Caleb, he was changing too. He still worked hard, still spoke little, but he wasn't as distant anymore. One evening, the sky turned golden as the sun began to set. Caleb stood near the fence, looking out at the open land. Eliza walked up beside him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The wind moved gently now, calm and peaceful. "You were right," Eliza said quietly. "About what?" Caleb asked. "Not running," she replied. Caleb gave a small nod. "You stayed," he said. "That's what matters." Eliza looked at the land in front of her. "I've been running for so long," she said. "I didn't think I could stop." Caleb glanced at her. "But now?" he asked. She smiled softly. "Now I don't feel lost anymore." There was a quiet pause. Then Caleb spoke, his voice steady but softer than before. "You don't have to leave," he said. Eliza looked at him. "This place," he continued. "There's room here, if you want it." She understood what he meant. Not just the ranch, but something more, something real. Eliza took a deep breath. For the first time in a long time, she felt certain. "I'd like that," she said. The sun slowly disappeared behind the hills. The ranch stood strong and peaceful. And in that quiet moment, 2 lives that once walked alone finally found a place to belong.